hit record. Zoom says that really like loud announcement. And then we can just go ahead and get started. Hey, Holly, how are you? I'm so excited to be talking to you.
I'm
Where are you
excited to be
calling us
here.
from?
I live in Oxford, Ohio, which is famous
Hi.
for Miami University, but not the Florida one.
Yes, I know. The one that people always confuse for Florida. Oh, amazing. How's the weather? Is it very fall-like right now?
Beautiful day today. Went on a good walk around Miami's campus today, which was nice to enjoy some of the sun because in
Nice.
Ohio, we don't have a lot of that in the winter.
Oh no, I know. Here it comes. Here it comes.
And
Well,
where are you hosting from right now on your travels?
I'm currently in Amsterdam. So
Mm.
yeah, it's very cold and rainy. Uh living up to its reputation, but it's super cute. It's been fun kind of wandering around during the day. So
That's
yeah.
good.
Well, cool. So why don't we get started? I would love to hear from you. I think just maybe kind of walk us through your story a little bit. Where you were, what you were doing before Write Your Way to Freedom, how you found it, what it was like, you know the drill.
Yeah. So my name's Holly. I'm a dietitian by training, and dietitians are mostly working in hospitals and nursing homes with sick, grumpy adults. And I'm just have never been into that. So
Yeah,
I knew
just
I wanted to be a dietitian far sooner than the way in which I wanted to be a dietitian.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I found your course in the midst of a really hard time in my life. I was going through a divorce. I guess all divorces are probably ugly, so it's probably additional information to say an ugly divorce. And I had a new CEO in my company, and people were getting fired, but I couldn't quit because I still needed to be able to refinance my house with a regular job. So I bought your course after seeing it on Instagram, like a life preserver.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the time or mental space or anything to actually delve into it, but I knew that my life wasn't always going to be as shitty as it felt right then.
Mm-hmm.
So I just bought it to know that it would be there when I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
Then I went through a lot of healing and rebuilding my financial life after going through a divorce, which that's fun. And dating and just like beginning to enjoy life again, and was able to be ready to work on the course. But I wasn't actually super ready to quit my job and dive in because my partner and I were having a lot of conversations about kids and health insurance and all kind of just practical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took a while to feel ready. And then when the pandemic started, the work culture just got more and more stressful with my full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached a breaking point when I had a panic attack and just realized I was being far too loyal to a company that wasn't loyal to me.
Mm-hmm.
It was time to go.
Yeah, I
So,
know the feeling.
so I quit my job in April and have not looked back. It's been really great to just be my own boss and to have had all of that foundation work done ahead of time. So it just didn't feel that scary. It was far scarier to my boyfriend than to me.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to take the leap.
So I'm guessing he's not, he's not an entrepreneur. I'm guessing. So you think it's a little
No,
crazy or?
he's a carpenter, and he is actually has had his own business, but
Oh, okay.
did it without an abundance mindset. So he just has a lot of scary memories about it, of like working all the time and not having boundaries in place like we learn how to do with your course.
Mm-hmm.
So we just had a different experience with it.
Oh yeah, that makes more sense. So his fear was like an informed fear. Like he knew what it was like to run his own business and like how scary that can be. That makes sense. That's even
And
more
I
scary.
did too.
Yeah.
Because I had a private practice about 8 years ago as a dietitian and made like every mistake you can make.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew it could be different, but I was taking pretty deliberate and slow steps to make sure I wasn't mimicking anything that wasn't working the first time through with my business this time.
Yeah, because you've mentioned abundance mindset a few times now, and also like when we've talked about having this call. And so I'd love to hear you speak more to that. What were some of the bigger changes, maybe in habits that you adopted, or maybe in the ways that you kind of just did things?
Gosh, when I had my private practice the first time, I was really broke. I had gotten laid off from a job. I'd lived in DC at the time and had moved back to Ohio to be closer to family, and just didn't even know how much it was possible to make as a business. Dietitians as a field are not paid that well to begin with, in traditional jobs. And I just was scrounging around, and I thought that working in a small town, I would need to do everything in order to have a financially sound business, when really I just ended up completely running myself ragged. Not really getting any traction in one area of my business. I tried a bunch, and writing actually was part of it, and shockingly, that's the part that I loved the best. But I didn't, that was long enough ago. It was like 10 years ago, and there weren't even, like these days, there are all sorts of entrepreneur groups for most fields, but especially as a dietitian too. There just weren't those examples. And I didn't have people to look up to know it was possible and ask questions. And so things just felt really scary and overwhelming. And of course, you're not making money. What, like, who are you to be having a business and that kind of stuff? Whereas these days, it's so much easier to connect with people, to ask questions and to be inspired, and just to see what is possible.
Yeah. I mean, you've always like stood out to me in the group as being like, you know, one of the wonderful voices in our community. So is community like a part of this, not even just with the Right Rate of Freedom, but are you in other communities for things? Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Community, I have found, because I did the whole freelance entrepreneurial thing without a community, and that was like one of my biggest mistakes, to go down that path for so long without other entrepreneurs in my life, because it's so lonely. It's so lonely. It's so much scarier, and yeah, you don't have people to bounce ideas off of. So yeah.
And typical 9-to-5ers, although they want to give helpful advice, aren't typically able to offer helpful advice. Because their mindset is different.
Yeah, it's a different mindset, totally. And that's why it's like important also. I know a lot of people, including myself, when I first started in this path, like I kept it kind of to myself so that I wouldn't hear the advice of people. I was like quiet about what I was doing. And then the people I did tell were like, oh, you're crazy.
I got a lot of unhelpful advice my first time having a business. But I'm just more able to be like, you know, thanks, but not really worry about advice if it's not actually helpful.
Yeah. Well, the big question for me, I think, has always been like, have they been where I'm trying to go? Like, do I want what they have? Because for me, it's like a quick way to filter out when somebody's giving well-meaning advice, right? Like, it's not like they're like trying to sabotage you, but if they're not coming from a place of like knowledge, then it's like, yeah.
Absolutely. I agree.
So when you were, I guess, kind of making the moves, because it sounds like, you know, April, it's October now. April was when you really like kick things off and exceeded your 9-to-5 income. And then has it been a steady growth? I'd love to hear you talk more about that. Maybe even hearing a little bit about who your clients are, and yeah, just kind of what that looked like.
Yeah. Before I quit my job, as I said, I took it as just a slow and steady. I wasn't in a rush. And I used that to pay off big bills, and I used it to boost my savings. And then I put what I felt comfortable in my business bank account and called that my freedom fund, because I knew I wasn't going to stay at this job forever. I was just trying to find, not that there's a right time, but when I was ready to make the leap based on how life was unfolding. So once I reached that number, then I put everything extra towards student loans. So while I was still working both jobs, I paid off $10,000 of student loans.
Yeah.
That felt awesome.
Yeah.
And that helped me stay motivated when it is stressful to do 2 jobs, obviously. But that helped keep my eye on the prize, being really purposeful with what I was doing with that money there. And then when I had the panic attack and things just got worse and worse, I was like, all right, it's time to go. And in the meantime, I have either matched or exceeded what I made in my old job every month but August, except I only worked 2 weeks in August. So that's just fun.
Oh, so you took like vacation in August, I hope? Heck yeah, that's amazing.
My partner and I spent 2 weeks gallivanting around Michigan. It was lovely.
That's so good. That's amazing. So are you feeling some consistency in your income and your ability to like bring in clients and work and stuff? Feeling some confidence in that area? That's so good. Because that's the important thing, right? I always tell people, because there is that transitional phase where it's like, okay, I'm working my full-time job and I'm doing this side hustle thing and I want to make the switch. And like you're limited basically by time. So you gotta kind of like make that leap. And I'm always telling people that like the time to make the leap, in my opinion, is when you're feeling confident about like bringing some consistency, like even if it's like consistently bringing in clients or bringing in work. And so I guess, when did you feel that consistency, or was it the case of just like the panic attack, I got to take better care of myself, to like get you to make that actual final transition?
Probably a bit of both. I knew that things felt incredibly different than when I had a business the first time. So I knew that I was on the right track, and I knew I was getting more consistent clients. For me, I've been getting the most clients because it's dietitian to dietitian. That feels easier for my clients to hire me. I haven't had to do a lot of cold emailing. I've been just active in dietitian Facebook groups, and that's where, between that and now having client referrals, that's been good. And I've actually had some web designers who do websites for dietitians. We've been collaborating on projects. So it just was kind of falling into place. And then my full-time job was deteriorating. So it felt like the fork in the road. It's just time to do it.
Yeah. I love that. You're really like leveraging your previous experience to make it work for you in copywriting. And you like that, right? Like you're happy to be still in that world. That's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah. And oh, were you gonna say something? Sorry.
I don't think so. It's gone.
Okay, I thought you. And then we can celebrate maybe a little bit. I think you had your first 10K month in July. How did that feel? Was that feel crazy, or what were the feelings around that?
All are good. It felt really good.
Yeah. Oh, I love to hear that.
And then also just to know it's the first of many, which is great.
Yes, I love to hear that confidence. So one thing also that you had mentioned was the power of delegating, bringing on a few other people to kind of support you. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, who's supporting you and what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So I knew from my previous time having a business what it felt like intimately to work 24/7, and was damn determined not to repeat that. So honestly, before I would have even said I needed a VA or I'd reached a breaking point, because it's been very important to me. I'm not working more than 40 hours a week. I really prioritize my time. So I want this to be within the bigger picture of a lifestyle. So first I hired a VA just to help with doing some social media stuff and emails and promoting my own blog posts, both to promote my business and just have more experience with what my clients are doing. So I like to be my own guinea pig for things too. And so that not only am I able to give her things and have fewer tasks that are swirling around in my mind, it also helped me to keep me accountable, because especially at the beginning, not always as consistent, but if she needs work to do every week, I need to give her work to do every week.
Right.
So I think it's helpful in both ways.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so I'm wondering, has that like, what are the amount of hours you're working per week? What does that look like for you?
I track my time. I use Toggle. I don't know if other people are using that
Nice, very
tool
nice.
too.
Uh-huh.
But for all of my tasks, I tracking right now, client call.
Yeah.
And I'm working 25 to 35 hours a week.
Dang, that's amazing. And you think that like having this VA and having a little bit of a team, is that like playing a big part in that? Yeah.
And it's also just some life stuff too. Like I'm pregnant, so I have like a million doctor's appointments, and we're doing some things around the house. And there's like the stove is broken, and there's just been a million interruptions. So I might have chosen to work 30 to 35 hours a week, but life has impacted my own availability. But that's just fine.
But that's great. Isn't it great that you like, yeah, life is like getting in the way, but it's like still okay and it's all like working out. That's like the best. I love that.
Very good.
Yeah. That's so exciting. Oh man.
I'm due in January. My
Yeah.
clients have been really understanding. That feels a little scary when I started telling them like, hey, I'm gonna be gone for a little bit. But for everyone, I'm actually just working ahead. So I'm working on their stuff to publish now and their quarter one content. So we're all just
that's so amazing.
working ahead. And I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Good enough.
You're getting to set it up. Don't have to ask off for like maternity leave. So awesome. You're gonna be able to set yourself up for success. That's so exciting. I really love that. And there's so many people in the group to like reach out to for advice on this. There's so many moms. I keep joking with people. I'm like, when that time comes for me, I'm gonna be like, moms, tell me your magic ways. Because we've had quite a few people who have like set up maternity leaves, and that's like through their freelance business, and like kind of done the prep on the front end to kind of get themselves like set up for success. And I just like think that is so amazing. So nice. So I would love, is there anything, well actually let me pop over to some of these questions. So some of the questions that were asked were, and guys, if you have any questions, you can definitely drop them in the comments, were, do you have a morning routine? And if you do, what does that look like?
I think the honest answer is that's been a work in progress.
Yeah.
My body has felt really different week to week and
Yeah.
month to month with both the time change and pregnancy. So I would say that's in progress. I feel best when I do something active in the morning, and I like doing a little bit of yoga. If that feels good, has varied.
Yeah.
I love writing gratitude, just a page of whatever comes up that makes me feel good.
Yes.
And then my dog, Sarah, and I both have Bernedoodles.
Yes.
So I love getting a long walk with him in the morning, but it's not always consistent, and it's
definitely got to listen to your body for sure. Well, to follow up on that, then how did you work on your abundance mindset that was dropped in the chat?
Therapy.
Yeah.
Highly recommend therapy. That helped me get through divorce and stuff. I mean, not unscathed, but whatever. And then books like You Are a Badass. I was looking over at my bookshelf. And being more gentle with myself. I think we can be really very hard on ourselves and have very unrealistic expectations that we would never have of anybody else who we know and love. and then celebrating wins as they come, and that the gratitude helps to realize the good progress that you're making.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'd say it takes a lot of practice, but it's definitely work worth doing.
Yeah. Seriously. I love that. Not only has it served you right now and you see like the value in continuing it, but I kind of love that you have this story from like way earlier when you had your own practice that you can like look back on and see like exactly like what went down there with like new eyes. Because I don't know, 10 years ago, I didn't know anything about an abundance mindset. I didn't know anything about
I sure as hell
mindset.
didn't either.
Yeah. And so I love also that this is like becoming more of a conversation just in general. Like people are like talking about it more and it's so lovely. Um, so what is your setup for your computer, hardware and software, if any? What do you use? It's a very specific question.
I like a giant desk, so I'm sitting at a pretty big L-shaped desk, so I can just spread out.
Mhm.
I like as many plants as possible, so
Hey.
there are some behind me, but I am surrounded. And I have a MacBook laptop, which I like, and then I have a big screen.
Nice.
So I guess spreading out is my theme. And usually I'm working in here. Before the pandemic, I would do more stuff at libraries and coffee shops to mix things up, and I like that, but I'm not interested in that right now.
Yeah.
It's either here on my screen and porch is where the magic happens.
Yeah. I've never used a big screen before, but my fiance does, and I'm like so scared that I'll get hooked on the big screen. Because I feel like once you have one, people have such a hard time like just working from a laptop. And so I'm like real nervous about that. But I know people
Probably true.
yeah, once you have that big screen, it's like everybody's like, oh, game changer for sure. Yeah.
I don't mind being on my porch with just the laptop, but it does depend on what work I'm doing if
Right.
I want the bigger screen, I would say.
Totally. Well, is there anything else that you would like love to say, talk about, or I don't know. I just like your story is incredible. I love your shares in our group. And yeah, it's just been such a journey and I don't know, I'm just so excited to see like what's to come.
Let's see. I think I wish I had known at the beginning that new things always feel scary.
Mm-hmm.
And that when I was less experienced and less confident, things feeling scary leaned into the imposter syndrome of you're in the wrong place and you don't belong here.
Mm-hmm.
But now with practice, I'm a lot more comfortable with things being scary.
Yeah.
But I also know that new things are always going to feel scary, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't know that for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a huge, important realization. And so, yeah, would there be any advice that you would have for somebody who's like just starting out and Write Your Way to Freedom?
I would say there's no right or wrong pace. Obviously, I was on the slow train because that's where I needed to be in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And on the same side of fear is always a part of things being new. You still belong and you can still do it. But that you're also going to make mistakes, and that's normal too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously I made mistakes here. I made way more mistakes the first time I had a business. But I don't regret any of them. I learned a lot, and I know that I'm in a much better place having tried something, and that not being working out in the way it needed to be is still useful.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just not there anymore. So I can reflect on it and be grateful that I'm in a very different, better place.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah, somebody actually just dropped in the comments a question about finding a virtual assistant. What skill sets did you look for? And also, I guess I know you kind of spoke to like when you decided you needed one, but I'm curious about how far in you really like was like, I'm gonna hire a VA. Do you know like the timeline exactly?
I think it was actually before I quit my full-time job.
Oh, so you were like, right away, I'm doing this. Awesome. That's
Hmm.
amazing. Cause that's something I'm like, well, especially with proofreaders, I'm like, guys, get a proofreader immediately. Like proofreader,
Proofreader immediately.
proofreader immediately. And just work it into your prices because it makes life easier, makes your writing better, it's more collaborative, it's like relieves some stress. Like, yeah.
So I am a terrible speller
Mm-hmm.
and a terrible proofreader.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that I needed a proofreader from day one. So I even had a proofreader in my dad when I had my business way back when, and we would do payments in M&Ms or things over his way to support my business. But my proofreader I've had since day one, so I've just built that into my prices because that
Yeah.
was a non-negotiable to have professional things
I
to
think
provide to
that's
clients.
smart. So, so, so smart.
And the VA came next, and I was looking for things to cover that I didn't like to do.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, and then she's actually a friend of mine. So I don't have great advice on how to find your
Mm-hmm.
own. But I will say that training, what was helpful is doing writing out processes and doing short Loom videos so
Yes.
that they have things to refer to in terms of how you do things.
Mm-hmm.
So that, and then I don't actually think she has gotten a different job, so she's probably not going to be available to be my VA, and I'll be on the hunt for a new one. But I still have all of these processes written down so that I can continue with whoever starts next.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then most recently, I'm going to be hiring a bookkeeper just to go. I have tracking software with my business bank account to categorize things, and you're supposed to look at it, sometimes, and I just don't. So again,
Yeah.
to keep me on track, and I don't want to do it. So I'm going to hire her for a month, an hour or two a month. It's
Yeah.
not going to cost very much, and I don't have to do it. And I'm really excited about that.
Oh my gosh, you have the best attitude for just like not delegating things you don't want. And so many people wait to do that
Don't
because
wait.
they, yeah, this is the thing. This is the mistake I think people make in this area is they think that by not doing that, like they think like, oh, I'm giving away like some of my income by doing that, when really you're maximizing like what your skill set is and the time because you're doing this like what your like zone of genius is or whatever. That's what people love to say these days. And that allows you to actually scale and to earn more when you stop doing the little like small things. So yes, I love, love, love that you did that. And one more follow-up question was actually, how did you decide to work with a proofreader rather than a copy editor?
Good question. I guess I was just getting more confident in my writing.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I started with blogs, and I'd had the most experience with blogs,
Mm-hmm.
both personal travel blogs that I've written for myself and things for clients.
Mm-hmm.
I hired a copy editor when I started doing web copy because I wanted more support and feedback on that.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I felt comfortable. I got enough good feedback from clients that I felt like I was providing a good product and we were seeing good results with SEO. So I wouldn't have been afraid to hire that. I didn't think that I needed it for blogs, but was happy to have some good support on web copy when I felt less confident there.
Totally. That's an awesome strategy. That's like what I did when I wrote my first white paper. I hired a copywriter who wrote white papers. Like that was like his jam. And I was like, hey, can I hire you to like oversee me writing this new, very scary and intimidating piece of copy?
I
Yeah.
want to do those someday. Well, that'd be a next year goal.
Yeah, definitely. I thought I was going to love them. They turned out to be like a lot for me. But yeah, I thought I was gonna love them because I used to like love technical writing. I still sometimes do, but anyway, yep, totally an option to like find somebody to somewhat like mentor you over a new piece of copy. Like great, great strategy.
I would like to point out what you just said of I tried it and didn't like it, and you gave yourself permission to change your mind. And I think
Mhm.
that's a really important lesson.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. so many things, because that's what you're figuring out. And that's how you make this process really work for you, right? Like, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh, well, it was so good talking with you. Is there anything else, any words of wisdom you'd like to leave us with? No pressure. It's very open-ended.
Um, gosh, whew, that was a big question.
Well, it's very open-ended. No pressure. I really think that like one of my favorite takeaways from your story is just how quickly you hired support. Because I really think that was a big part in what helped you scale to 10K within like what, April, May, June, July, 4 months. Like, I mean, do you agree with that? Or
I think so.
Mhm.
And also just the fact that I've been doing it part-time with for a lot longer too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
at that time, I wasn't looking for new clients because I was at capacity with having both.
Mm-hmm.
So then once I didn't even have a LinkedIn, which we all know LinkedIn can be really awesome, but my business was sort of a secret.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to tell your boss you're too busy when they know you have another business.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
um, but mostly just didn't feel valued or appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it just feels really good when you're in the right spot. Because I've been very much in the wrong spot in personal and professional lives. So it doesn't feel good if you're not excited. Keep moving, you'll get there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And don't feel like being in the wrong spot means you're doing something wrong. Just trying new things until you get the right place.
Yeah. Yeah. That's huge. Uh, well, I love that. I love your story. Congratulations on your baby again.
Thank
And
you.
thank you so much for taking time to share your story with us. I am just so excited. Cannot wait to see what's to come. I love how you said that your, first 10K month or whatever was one of many. Yeah. And thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you for taking the time to talk with us.
Thanks for having this amazing space and community and for inspiring us, Sarah.
Yeah.
Um, Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed watching student success stories for my own inspiration. So it feels good to be able to offer that to someone else, I hope. So thanks for having
Yeah,
me.
for sure. For sure. Well, thanks guys for showing up. We appreciate you. And yeah, see you in the group. See you in the community.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.